Want me
with
to
you.
let you know, like, when we get to like 9 minutes?
Yeah, that'd
9
be
minutes, I'll go
perfect.
like this. So you know you have 2 more minutes.
All right, that's
Okay?
cool.
All right, awesome. Once they get out of here, I'll get us started, but I don't need the door shutting and closing.
That's
okay?
cool.
I'm gonna do that three.
She's gonna do it, but she's gonna do it a few times, but that's okay. She closes it very softly.
I know how I'm G.
How I look? I'm looking all right. My teeth yellow.
You know we're live
No,
right now,
Y'all
right?
are live. It's the truth.
we're really live.
We can have some fun
Behind the
though.
scenes.
We
But
live.
this
We having
is
a little fun.
definitely
That's how
behind the
this how it goes
scenes.
down.
This is so behind.
This is real.
It's fine.
It's fit if you do not get out of here.
I'm trying.
So
to
this
do
is
my
definitely
job.
what happens when you're in the studio and you're pre-recording.
Hey, be like that
That's
sometimes.
how it's at.
I can't. The door is open. There's people over here clicking. This is chaos.
All right.
Get out.
Peace be still.
Can you say retrograde energy?
Oh, that's when it started. Okay. We're live.
Macy, why would you say that?
I swear.
That is,
Okay.
This is hilarious.
Get out of here.
Oh my gosh, I love right.
WDRB Media.
Oh my gosh, right.
It's all love
The
up in here.
look, the voice of your community,
Yes.
giving you double the
Don't
is.
listen to these voices right now. This is not what's going on.
And just know that it is not Juicy J's voice, or
Mr. Bay. We got a crew up in here. We about
this is hilarious.
I need y'all to get out of the studio.
put me in my own office.
all right.
This is funny. You ready?
This is my office.
I'm ready.
All right, are you ready?
She needs to get out. And she's gonna keep popping in. It's gonna continue to be chaos. And she had a coaching that was supposed to start 17 minutes ago.
Ooh,
Wow, not the
I don't have a coach that's
17.
started anything, but she wasn't on the calendar. So if you're gonna speak it, you're gonna have to speak fast. I don't have anything. I have it when I get my ass out there.
I swear.
I was just letting.
All right, are you gonna be?
I am promising I am.
Why would I talk when
This is absolutely hilarious.
We're live.
All right.
This is so funny to me.
Peace be still.
All
Right.
right, we're gonna get started.
So I
promise.
maybe this segment we're gonna do a moment of silence
Yes.
For me.
for someone, but we're ready whenever you are ready.
All right, so we're gonna get this started in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to A New Day, and we're your hosts, Juicy J.
Oh, you got the extra on there today. And Mr. Bay. And we are here today. We're going to be talking about inappropriate sex.
It's time to break the hex. But
Yes.
before we get started, we're going to do a little bit of self-promotion here. So we're going to talk about Blue Crew. So how's Blue Crew been doing this past week?
Oh, man. Blue Crew has been really, it's getting a little bit slow out there in the workforce. And we are actually regrouping a little bit because we're seeing some changes in the industry. And we want to try to be a part of the change and kind of be ahead of the curve. So recently we've been getting prepared to launch our training program.
Yes.
So getting things in preparation for that and for a nonprofit that's going to be soon established. So we're really focused on getting those things established for the future of the Blue Crew.
Definitely exciting.
Yeah, so I want to, yeah. Are you done? I'm not done.
No,
So-
I'm not done.
Okay, so anyways, as far as the Blue Crew is concerned, we pretty much stay busy for the most part. But at this point, like I said, it's fall. It's time now. People are getting back to school, so business kind of slows down. And then right before the holidays, it gets crazy again. Everybody wants everything done yesterday. So, right now it's like the calm before the storm. So we're actually preparing ourselves for that storm. And so that we can see our way into the future, for the future of what the Blue Crew is doing. So stay tuned, people. There always is more to come, and we're going to be sharing with you as we progress the work we're doing out there in the community. We actually got a meeting this week coming up that we're going to be attending with the community organization along with the city of Charlotte in regards to our next program that we're going to be partnering with the ERTL Foundation to do more work in the community for our seniors. So that's on the horizon. So
Yes.
that's where we kind of headed. More service. And, as they say, as I like to say, when it's time for service, it's no time for nervous. And so along with that, That's it. That's all I want to share right now. I do want to get in this topic. I think it's an important topic, especially for today. We just had this verdict come in on Bill Cosby, and we titled this segment, this show, what we did because in our community there's a lot of things that are going on with our youth and with our elders, and inappropriate sex. A lot of things going on in the media, period, regarding sex scandals and things like that. So we today want to talk about those things and maybe try to bring forth some solutions, if you will, see if we can have the conversation, because it needs to be had.
Absolutely. Well, before we really get into this segment, we want to definitely thank our sponsors for the show, Fortress Network, LLC.
Oh, yes. And, yeah, we can't wait to have Fortress come back on the show. Everybody out there, we keep talking about Fortress, but we really are working to set this business opportunity up so we can bring it to the masses. I feel like it's really a godsend opportunity for the average person to be able to take part in an opportunity that can afford them to live, change their lives financially.
Absolutely.
With a minimal
investment.
Really with minimal investment. It's almost like too good to be true, but I do want to take some more time on in the future to really share with people and we're going to be starting hosting meetings in the Charlotte area so we can bring it to the community, because right now it's like a sleeping giant. A lot of people don't know about it, and we want to educate people on the opportunities that are available now in this economy and where it's headed in the future, how we can secure our financial security without depending on going to get a job or high startup costs for businesses. Most businesses, you need money to run business now. So.
Absolutely, some type of capital to be established. And just to piggyback off of that, we will be doing the meetings here in Charlotte. But for those that are not here based in Charlotte, we are trying to set up webinars and some Zoom broadcasts so that you guys can come in as well if you're not in the Charlotte area.
Oh yes, and we're global, so yeah, we're definitely going to be doing more video interaction, more webinars, and because we don't want to be like, we want to educate people. We don't want to be like other network marketing companies. We want to show people how you can utilize the same thing you're doing now, but through social media and get paid. Whether you're a business or you just a person that's looking for a residual income.
Right.
So thank God for Fortress and what they've been doing for us. Since then, it's really shown me how we can change the program of our people. And, like what we do out in the world, painting. I've been painting for 20 years, and I've never ran across the opportunity that could afford me to be able to make the kind of money as if I was in the business, but with little to no effort.
Right.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yes, it's definitely going to be an exciting time as we bring that in. So, inappropriate sex.
Yes.
It's time to break the hex.
So
how do you want to start this conversation off? Because I know this is going to be a nice, interesting conversation today. So, I don't know. I think I want to start off with Bill Cosby.
Yeah, you could talk about Bill's.
Let's talk about Bill for a little bit.
And
how do you feel about that?
Wow. Well, as far as the case, I'll be honest, I have not really followed the case because I really don't watch the news like that. Mm-hmm. But I do pay attention to headlines because, sometimes you got to read between the lines. And just because I don't watch TV doesn't mean I'm not in the know about so many others that have been involved in sex scandals.
Right.
I mean, you got the Kavanaugh thing going on with Trump. It's just too many to list. And on top of that, just recently in the last week, I actually personally heard about 2 incidences where a young man was basically interacting inappropriately with a 15-year-old. He was 21.
Okay.
And then in another instance where one of my brothers who, I won't mention names, but he shared with me in an organization that he's working with that it's a youth program for young men.
For young men, okay.
And it's come to find out one of the young men, I think it's a co-ed program actually, but I had to be sure about that. But nevertheless, it was a young man who was, I want to say 17 and dealing with a 12-year-old a child. So trying to have sex. And so as far as the Bill Cosby situation here, this is a little different because it wasn't underage people that I know of
Right.
that were involved. These were grown women. Understand there might have been some drugs involved and things like that. But nevertheless, the fact that he just got sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison, 10 years.
3 to 10 years in prison.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's something
Bill
that,
Cosby is what, like 83 years old, I think, 83, 84, somewhere along those lines.
yeah, I really, I kind of, it's like when you talk about sexuality and, I mean, it really could put you, it's a lot of people, you'll be surprised how many people have experienced some type of sexual trauma from a very young age. And they go throughout their lives and they never talk about it. Or even you have women that are raped or somebody might have, made a sexual advance towards them and it really was kind of demeaning or whatever. And they just like, because they deal with it so much, they just kind of, it goes unreported. And so as far as Bill Cosby, I mean, here it is, this man, I mean, we grew up watching him from Fat Albert to the Huxtables, and now all of a sudden it's this guy who's on TV, has this great image, but behind closed doors, he may have some sexual issues that he's demons that's been coming out. And I think a lot of those skeletons, and not just in America, but globally in regards to inappropriate things in regard to sex. And we can go into a lot of different areas. I mean, we probably could talk about this from here to next year. Right. And still not cover everything as far as how these things play out. And they need help. I don't agree with, kill them and all that kind of stuff. Stops people things under the rug. I mean, people out there, predators out there really think it's something that has to be dealt with from a child. But those adults who haven't dealt with that childhood, they need to seek counsel. A wise counsel, and try to alleviate and things like that, things that happen out there every day. So,
okay.
Yeah. I said a mouthful.
I think you said a mouthful on that one. So when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion on inappropriate sex.
It's time to break the hex.
You're listening to WDRB Media, the voice of your community. You're listening to A New Day, and we're your hosts, Juice CJ.
Oh, man. And Mr. Bay, she got an extra juice today. Okay. All right. All right.
That's like about 10, right under 11.
10 minutes and 38 seconds.
Okay,
right.
that's
I give
good.
you specifics, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So does she.
Coming back, we talked about Bill Cosby. You can add your commentary. And then we can talk about, I want to talk back on that video.
On the video that you did. All right, that's fine. We normally try to insert maybe the commercial and then 2 songs in between each segment. And then as we'll come back in. Okay.
Okay.
So,
all right. You ready?
Yeah, we could try to
Any
make
specific songs?
We normally give a list. And if it's not ready today, we normally text it to Fit. So then that way she'll know. We try to always kind of pick the right songs for the show.
Just want to make sure.
All right. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, come back.
Yeah.
All right. Come back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. And those streaming live from TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, or just on your laptops at WDRBmedia.com, you're listening to A New Day. And we're your hosts, Juice CJ.
Oh, my goodness. And Mr. Bay.
And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about inappropriate sex. It's time to break the hex.
Yes, yes.
And we ended that first segment. We were discussing Bill Cosby and the verdict that has just come in where he has been sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for some sexual allegations. I'm still saying allegations that took place back in 2004.
Yeah,
but
allegations. If you got sentenced, that's a fact.
I don't know. I guess because the little bit that I did listen to, and I didn't listen to a lot of it because at one point I really did get sick of hearing about it, and I stopped listening when one of the women said that she could not recall anything. And for me, that was a true problem because I feel as if it's hard for me to accuse someone 20 years ago, give or take, and I can't remember anything. So whether or not, she's saying, okay, well, I woke up in his place and I was just discombobulated, and then, he put me in a cab and I went home, but I couldn't remember anything that happened between the time when she got there and when she woke up. So that was the biggest problem that I had.
But that was one woman.
That was one woman. And I really stopped listening after that. And I'm not going to say that Bill Cosby is 100% innocent. I won't sit here and say that. But I just know that whenever you have a lot of traumas, especially some sexual traumas, and it's to the point to where you want to accuse someone publicly in this way, you're going to remember.
Absolutely. I do agree with that.
You're going to remember details, because no matter how inebriated you may be, that sticks in your subconscious for a lifetime. That's just something that you'll never be able to forget. So that's where I lost interest in listening to it, because that frustrated me when I hear women that accuse men of things, especially when they're in the limelight, and then it come back to it, and then you can't recall.
But that's a whole nother show. I mean, those people, if you do have a person like that, they just lying, that's one thing. But on the other hand, you can't turn your eye if it's multiple people saying the same. Like, it's not gonna be just multiple people showing up out of nowhere. Like,
that's true.
He drugged me and all that, because a lot of them actors and stuff like that, they like to get high, they like to party, and never know. Sometimes people say they blacked out. I don't truly always agree with that. I don't know, but then again, I haven't taken a lot of those drugs that maybe they've been taking, like Quaaludes, for example,
right.
and all those drugs
That's
they
true.
were taking back then to get high and party with. However, let's just not focus on Bill Cosby, because it was a lot of focus on him over the last years during this case or whatever. But I just feel like overall in the world right now, you have even with the Pope, where all these pedophilia things coming up in the church, not just in the Catholic Church, but pretty much every church.
Every church.
And so, it's bad that the Catholic Church, they got to take the brunt, but they are the lead. Is when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to religions, they're one of the largest churches on the face of the earth. So it's time, I think, that people need to be held accountable for their actions.
I definitely agree with that.
And speaking of which, like, I had back to the situation that I was made aware of. Actually, one of the ladies who told me, it was her daughter. She was a friend of mine, so I knew this person very closely. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know, in my spirit, it kind of rattled me a little bit. I decided to do a video, a live video over the weekend, and just talk about things that happened to me in my past regarding to my sexual evolution as a child going into adulthood, and how I was basically at a young age, I was introduced to sex by my uncles and my uncles mainly, and maybe older cousins, but mainly like a couple of my uncles in particularly, because they were so adamant about us not being gay that they introduced us to pornography and different things like that, and they were drilling us like, how many girls you got? Like, if we had a girlfriend, they would give us money, So their whole thing was that I ain't about to have no gay nephews or whatever. So
okay.
That's the time that they was in. I'm not saying that they was right or that they was wrong, but at the same time, I feel like looking back, maybe there was, some fear. Maybe there was wrong, but maybe that's how they was taught.
That's true.
If this never gets checked, if it's never, and to this day, like, I never went back to my uncles and say, why'd you do that?
Why did you do that?
Is this something that we just grew out of or whatever, and it just went unnoticed, and then I could think about the times where I was inappropriate with some of my family members sexually, women, not females, should I say, but at the same time, there was a lot of shame that came with that and guilt that I carried for a lot of years, and it wasn't until I was older, until I was able to look at that and say, whoa, like, maybe that was some of the issues I had to deal with through sex. I had to heal through that, and I had to forgive myself for that, because I was young and I was being influenced by elders, my elders.
The elders and the family.
Yeah, I mean, they would have killed us if they would have found out, some of the stuff we were doing. You know, as kids, you can't watch children all the time.
That's true.
And I think a lot of children are sexually, they are curious, you know. I think we are sexual beings. Like, we came here through sex. So I want to make that clear. So the fact that you have desires around it or anything like that, it's nothing wrong with it. But I think when it gets perverted, and when you start as an adult and you start to want to take advantage of children or force your will against someone else's will, that's when I see the problem. And I feel the children need to have a choice. Until they get to a certain age, maybe they don't need to be certain things until they get to a level of maturity where they can receive it and they can know how to stand in their own power and they make their own choice.
And they should be able to make their own choice.
And so, yeah, I did the live video. You know, I didn't know what I was really going to talk about, but I knew I had to be real about it because I know in my family, even in my family, where there was incest with, you know, my grandfather and his daughters, my aunts, you know, and it was a well-known secret, but I don't think it ever got dealt with. My grandfather, he never went to jail or nothing like that. My grandmother, it was like...
Well, you know, it was I think back in those times, you know, it was just nobody wanted to bring shame to the family. So you always either kept it internally within the family or you just never really said anything at all.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know, I guess now in this time we can say, well, that's not fair or it shouldn't have been done. But, you know, that's just what they were taught. So, you know, that's where that saying comes from, you know, if you know better, you'll do better. So, again, hence the title in which we have, well, you know, it's time to break the hex. So my thing is, how do we, as much as we like to be involved in the community, how do we help those that may have these sexual traumas, and as they get older, they still live within those, and when they think that it's okay? I think that's the biggest question.
Well, first, I think that it's the individual that must come to the realization that there is something wrong, and that they need to look at how they channeling their sexual energy. And if it's appropriate or if it's not appropriate, because, you know, in certain countries, they have children that marry grown men.
Grown men, like with the women, as soon as they, with young ladies, as soon as they start their menses, absolutely.
Right, and so we can look at that and say, well, those people are wrong. I'm not really here to say what's right or wrong as far as culturally speaking, in a sense, because, you know, at the end of the day, I think you're going to be judged by your heart and your intent. So I guess they need to get some type of psychological help, you know, whether it's some type of programs. We need to look into that, man. I don't know. I know some programs that I went through. Maybe when we come back off the break, I can share a little bit about some things that I did to kind of deal with my own self. But as far as those people, I'm sure that there's psychiatrists out there, well, doctors out there, counselors out there, people that they can go talk to and try to get some help for themselves and some healing for themselves, so that they don't have to keep perpetuating those things that may have happened to them that they have not came into terms with, you know, as far as controlling themselves sexually, because that's a powerful urge that we have as human beings. And a lot of times, if we're not disciplined how to deal with those urges, we can find ourselves doing things that maybe will be outside of our character.
Our character.
Yeah, so we can break, but when we come back, I definitely want to try to see if we can come up with some ideas, or lead some people into the direction of some healing for themselves.
All right. Well, you're listening to WDRB Media, the voice of your community. You're listening to A New Day, and I'm your host, Juicy J.
And Mr. B.
We're discussing inappropriate sex. It's time to break the hex. So we're going to pay a few bills with a couple of commercials, play a little music. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
10
minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay. So that's about 21 minutes altogether. We like to do at least maybe like half talking, half music. So this segment you can share the information that you know of when we come back in. and then we'll break again, and then afterwards
give me a
we'll
minute.
come and we'll end. We'll end.
Mm-hmm.
You got it.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
When you're trying to find the appropriate outlets for the people, you want to be precise.
All right.
And are you ready? You good?
Yeah.
He said yeah.
He did say yes. You noticed that. It's like
I think it's just a guy thing. My husband does it all the time. I'm like, you ready? He's like, yeah.
so you're not ready?
All right.
That's okay. All right. Okay, we're ready to come back in.
All right. We got this in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to WDIB Media, the voice of the community. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to A New Day, and we're your hosts, Juicy J.
Just on one today. And Mr. Bay. So Miss Juicy J. Wow, you just on one today. Feeling kind of saucy, huh?
I'm throwing them off today. Well, you know, we're back. We're talking about inappropriate sex. It's time to break the hex. So,
Somebody might consider that voice a little sexual, huh? Maybe, huh?
but it's juicy.
Yes, it is. So, but we grown and sexy, so we can talk like that. But back to the story. As far as those who may be looking to seek help for their sexual urges, how to get a hold to themselves,
Right.
I would recommend if they have somebody in their community, maybe from spiritual base, church, imam, pastor, rabbi, whatever. You know, somebody that they can trust in to, for one, just listen to them without judgment.
Right. That's the number one key right there.
Yeah, because I mean, you definitely will have to have a stomach to hear some of the stories that
Some people actually have that entail.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I would say start with the spirit first, consult your higher self and ask for forgiveness for whatever it is you believe in, and maybe if you don't believe in something, maybe it's time that you do. And so as far as the programs now, I mean, there are programs like that you could just Google. You can Google it. If you really want help, you can go and find some sex offender programs, people that are dealing with those type of issues. And I'm sure that there are resources within their local area. I just found one that quick, the National Youth Advocate Program. And their number is 877-692-7626. So that's a national program. So all for the youth out there, you can definitely tune into that channel, take that number down.
Right.
And
Can you repeat that number for them again, please?
The number to the National Youth Advocate Program is 1-877-692-7226.
Okay. And we actually found this just by going through Google. So as I'm glancing over, I see that they also have some social media outlets where you can go and follow if you're not quite comfortable to make the phone call yet. And I'm sure that you can get some more information. Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing YouTube. I'm seeing that they have a Facebook page as well.
Yes. Okay, you want the Facebook page?
No, I wanted to see what else other ones besides YouTube and Facebook that they had where they can get information from without making the initial phone call.
All right, let's see. I'm sure that if they just went to Facebook and put in National Youth Advocate Program, caring for people, connecting communities, and promoting peace. So that's what we all about at A New Day. So it looks
Absolutely.
like it might be a great program. They have program for sex offender treatment services,
And let me just pause you right there. Even though you might not be a quote unquote sex offender, I don't want people to take that term as if it's a negative thing, because you do have people that are in need of just going to SA, Sex Anonymous, because they may have an addiction to sex in an unhealthy way. So. And again, we're not saying that, enjoying sex is not a good thing. It's not a healthy thing. But when it becomes the end up for right, the key part of that is for consenting adults. So, so I don't want to use the
or consenting youth. I mean, there are youth who make up their mind that they want to have sex.
But they have to be of a legal age. We can't have a consensual youth that's 12 years old and you have a young man that's 16, 17, 18 and above, and they can say, oh, well, she said yes. So,
right.
We definitely have to be smart to be mindful with what we're doing and with the energy that we're choosing to bring out there.
Absolutely. And so that being said, it's a thin line, right? But we have to teach our children what those lines.
That's absolutely true.
It really starts at home. And and so as far as my journey, I actually I think I first came to the revelation that it was some trauma back in like 2012. I attended a Juju Mama retreat, and they at Juju Mama was women there, and I actually sat in on a circle that they had, and it was 13 women there, and all except one was a virgin. And one, basically, she consented to sex, but every last one of the rest of them were violated in some type of way.
Some shape, form, or
and
fashion.
They were from all ages, all races. They were. I mean, it was a diverse group of women that were there, and I was blessed enough to be there. And while I listened to those stories, something just came over me, and it really changed the way that I viewed sex from that day. It changed the way I looked at women. It really just opened me up to wow, you just don't realize how powerful, how those things that happen when we're young can carry over into our
adulthood. Absolutely.
So peace out to Juju Mama. They actually on the World Wide Web. You can Google them too. For people that need, they do counseling, they do coaching, they do all kinds of things with relationship coaching and all of those things. So, that's the road that I came through. So I have to pay respect to that, and to the work that I actually did with them, through my process of healing. And so, and then I ran across other people throughout the time, just having a conversation with people, talking about it, and just being able to accept certain things within myself about my own sexuality and being able to stand in my own power. So it was a road, and it's and I'm only 41 years young, but I'm glad that that happened in the time that it did. I wish it maybe could have happened sooner, but everything comes in its proper time and
right,
its proper
absolutely.
way. So as far as that, I mean, what do you have to say as far as because being a woman, I mean, women get harassed all the time in a sense, especially if you're an attractive woman. But listen, don't sleep. It doesn't matter. You would be surprised how many unattractive women have been sexually abused behind closed doors. So it doesn't really matter. And young boys too. So it's not just a female thing, but also a male thing that we need to address and not turn a blind eye to. So,
as for me, I think that I was a daddy's girl, so I had a lot of very positive men in my life, which really helped me throughout my journey as far as when, back in the day when boys would play the little grab your booty game, and, as you start to develop as a young lady and, they started to grab on your breasts or whatever. So luckily I have an older brother with a lot of male friends. And I had my father and my grandfather. So whenever I would have those quote unquote issues, I had a male to go to kind of teach me how to handle it in a different way. And of course my mother would give me her advice from a female perspective. But of course, I've always valued that male energy that I needed to be able to help me through it.
But what if the male is the predator? I mean, what if the male is your father, your uncle?
And see, for myself personally, I really can't relate to that because, like you said back in another segment, it starts at home. So I can remember I had an uncle who passed away, but he was like my favorite uncle on my dad's side, truck driver. Always came back in town, and he would always have gifts for me. And as a little girl, I would always run up to him, and I would sit in his lap. Mm-hmm. And so I remember as a little girl, he would always say, "No, you don't sit in my lap." My nickname back in the day was Bam, so they called me Bam, and I could never understand why he said that to me. And so he would always tell me, "No, you never sit in a man's lap." Mm-hmm. And he would never allow for me to sit in his lap. And I remember, like, as a little girl, you had your nightgowns or this, that, or whatever. He would always make me go put on my house coat when he came to the house if I had my nightgown on. So that was something that was instilled in me at a very young age. So for me, I was very blessed and I was fortunate. To be able to be in that space. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't have those type of roles and role models in their life.
Yeah, too many don't. And so for those who don't, we got to be the voice for them and give them the courage and the strength to go get some help and go find someone that cares and that can help the situation, whether it be someone in the household, someone outside of the household, but really as a community. We have to really start paying more attention to these type of things.
That's true.
Start talking about these type of things and start advocating for help for these people that may be experiencing these types of behavior, whether they the predator or the victim. So.
And just to piggyback real quick before we end the show, I will have to say, as parents, you definitely have to pay more attention to your children. I think because as parents, we're working and we have so much going on that we tend not to do those easy conversations of how was school today. I can remember when the children were smaller, and I would always say, how was school today? So, anybody touch you today? And you have to teach them about that inappropriate touch no matter where it's coming from, because unfortunately you have a lot of teachers who are now taking advantage of a lot of these students. Oh, yeah. And, the schoolhouse is always supposed to be a safe place. You're always raised like you're safe in school. So if it's confusing to when you're teaching your children that you're safe in school, your teacher is great and blah, 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 but then they don't know how to come to you and say, well, Mrs. Such and Such touched me or Mr. Such and Such touched me. But you have to let your children know that they could be comfortable with you with having these discussions. And that starts with a very young age. I will have to say that I started, I won't say the children's names, but I started with them when they were 4, when they started school and preschool. And I taught them at a very young age, what is appropriate touch from a teacher. Because, pre-K, somebody can't always wipe themselves properly, and they need certain help, but it's a proper way to do things, and then it's definitely an appropriate way to do things. So I think that's very, very, very important in the family setting to just have those discussions. And our children are old now, so we have 2 in college, 2 in high school, 1 that's about to make us grandparents at a nice early age, but I'm grateful that we can have those open conversations about sex with them. One girl, 4 boys, but and I think that came because of the fact that we chose to have those conversations with them at a young age.
Indeed. So that looks like we're going to be ending it up for today. I really ask that the people out there that's listening to continue to pray for those people that have experienced sexual trauma. And all those bones that's rattling in the closet, let's get in there. Let's get them. Let's deal with them skeletons so we can heal and get past these sexual woes that we have, so the next generation doesn't have to repeat the cycle.
Absolutely. So, thank you everyone for tuning in this week with A New Day with Juicy J.
Mr. Bay.
Join us next week on every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Please remember to connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, A New Day with Juicy J and
Mr. Bay.
Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show,
Oh,
You
yeah.
could definitely contact us. That contact information is 980-554-1152.
And to be a sponsor too. We definitely looking for sponsors. So all of our friends out there with businesses, you'll be hearing from us soon.
And again, let me repeat that number. That number is 980-552-1184. That was a mistake on my end. Again, that's 980-552-1184. You're listening to WDRB Media, the voice of your community, giving you double the information and inspiration. Until next week, continue to be blessed. Real talk,
Real people.
real music.
All right.
Say goodbye to the people on live.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank you
love.
all for tuning in. Totally forgot we were on there for a little while there.